Steam is an internet-based digital distribution, digital rights management, multiplayer, and social networking platform developed by Valve Corporation. Steam provides the user with installation and automatic updating of games on multiple computers, and community features such as friends lists and groups, cloud saving, and in-game voice and chat functionality. The software provides a freely available application programming interface called Steamworks, which developers can use to integrate many of Steam's functions, including networking and matchmaking, in-game achievements, microtransactions, and support for user-created content through Steam Workshop, into their products. Though initially developed for use on Microsoft Windows, versions for OS X and Linux operating systems, and a limited function version for the PlayStation 3 console, have also been developed. Chatting and shopping applications for iOS and Android mobile devices have also been written. The success has led to the development of a line of Steam Machine microconsoles and personal computers meeting minimum specifications, and SteamOS, a Linux-based operating system built around the Steam client. As of January 2014, over 3,000 games are available through Steam, which has 75 million active users. Steam has had as many as 8 million concurrent users as of June 2014. In October 2013, it was estimated by Screen Digest that 75% of games bought online for the PC are downloaded through Steam. In November 2009, Stardock estimated it at 70%. History, initial release. Before implementing Steam, Valve had problems updating its online games, such as Counter-Strike. Providing patches would result in most of the online user base disconnecting for several days. Valve decided to create a platform that would update games automatically and implement stronger anti-piracy and anti-cheat measures. Valve approached several companies, including Microsoft, Yahoo, and Real Networks to build a client with these features, but were refused. Steam's development began before 2002. Working titles for the product included Grid and Gazelle. It was first revealed to the public on March 22, 2002, at the Game Developers Conference, where it was presented purely as a distribution network. To demonstrate the ease of integrating Steam with a game, Relic Entertainment created a special version of Impossible Creatures. However, the game was never released on Steam. Valve partnered with several companies, including AT&T, Acer, and GameSpy Industries. The first mod released on the system was Day of Defeat. The Steam client was first made available for public beta testing in January 2003 during the beta period for Counter-Strike 1.6, for which it was mandatory to install and use. At the time, Steam's primary function was streamlining the patch process common in online computer games. Steam was an optional component for all other games. 80,000 to 300,000 gamers tested the system when it was in its beta period. The system and website choked under the strain of thousands of users simultaneously attempting to play the latest version of Counter-Strike. In 2004, the World Opponent Network was shut down and replaced by Steam. The online features of games which required World Opponent Network ceased to work unless they were converted to Steam. Around this time, Valve began negotiating contracts with several publishers and independent developers to release their products, including Ragdoll Kung Fu and Darwinia, on Steam. Canadian publisher Strategy first announced in December 2005 that it would partner with Valve for digital distribution of current and future titles. In 2002, the head of Valve Gabby Newell said he was offering mod teams a game engine license and distribution over Steam for $995. Valve's Half-Life 2 was the first game to require installation of the Steam client to play, even for retail copies. This decision was met with concerns about software ownership, software requirements, and issues with overloaded servers demonstrated previously by the Counter-Strike rollout. Profitability. In 2005, third-party games began to appear on Steam and Valve announced that Steam had become profitable due to some highly successful Valve games. Although digital distribution could not yet match retail volume, profit margins for Valve and developers were far larger on Steam. Large developer publishers, including id Software, Eidos Interactive and Capcom began distributing their games on Steam in 2007. By May that year, 13 million accounts had been created on the service and 150 games were for sale on the platform. Client functionality, software delivery and maintenance. Steam's primary service is to allow its users to download games and other software that they have in their virtual software libraries to their local computers as game cache files. Steam provides digital rights management for software titles by providing custom executable generation for executable files that are unique for each user. This allows the user to install the software on multiple computing devices via Steam or through software backups without limitations. The user is required to be running Steam while connected to the Internet for authentication prior to playing a game or have previously set up Steam in an offline mode while connected to the Internet, storing their credentials locally to allow play without an Internet connection. Steam's DRM is available to software developers through Steamworks. The service allows developers and publishers to include other forms of DRM and other authentication services than Steam. For example, some games on Steam require the use of games for Windows Live and some titles from publisher Ubisoft require the use of their Uplay gaming service. In September 2008, Valve added support for Steam Cloud, a service that can automatically store saved game and related custom files on Valve servers. Users can access this data from any machine running the Steam client. Games must use the appropriate features of Steamworks for Steam Cloud to work. Users can disable this feature on a per-game and per-account basis. In May 2012, the service added the ability for users to manage their game libraries from remote clients, including computers and mobile devices. Users can instruct Steam to download and install games they own through this service if their Steam client is currently active and running. Some games sold through retail channels can be redeemed as titles for users' libraries within Steam by entering a product code within the software. For games that incorporate Steamworks, users can buy redemption codes from other vendors and redeem these in the Steam client to add the title to their libraries. Steam also offers a framework for selling and distributing downloadable content for games. In September 2013, Steam introduced the ability to share most games with family members and close friends by authorizing machines to access one's library. Authorized players can install the game locally and play it separately from the owning account. Users can access their saved games and achievements providing the main owner is not playing. When the main player initiates a game while a shared account is using it, the shared account user is allowed a few minutes to either save their progress and close the game or purchase the game for his or her own account. In accordance with its acceptable use policy, Valve retains the right to block and unblock customers' access to their games and Steam services when Valve's anti-cheat software determines that the user is cheating in multiplayer games, selling accounts to others or trading games to exploit regional price differences. Blocking such users initially removed access to his or her other games, leading to some users with high-value accounts losing access because of minor infractions of the AUP. Valve later changed its policy to be similar to that of Electronic Arts' Origin platform, in which blocked users can still access their games but are heavily restricted, limited to playing in offline mode and unable to participate in Steam community features. Customers also lose access to their games and Steam account if they refuse to accept changes to Steam's end-user license agreements. This occurred in August 2012. During mid-2011, Valve began to offer free-to-play games, such as Global Agenda, Spiral Knights and Champions Online. This offer was linked to the company's move to make Team Fortress 2 a free-to-play title. Valve included support via Steamworks for microtransactions for in-game items and these titles through Steam's purchasing channels, in a similar manner to the in-game store for Team Fortress 2. Later that year, Valve added the ability to trade in-game items and unopened game gifts between users. Steam Coupons, which was introduced in December 2011, provides single-use coupons that provide a discount to the cost of items. Steam coupons can be provided to users by developers and publishers. Users can trade these coupons between friends in a similar fashion to gifts and in-game items. Steam Market, a feature introduced in beta in December 2012 that would allow users to sell virtual items to others via Steam Wallet funds, further extended the idea. Valve levies a transaction fee of 15% on such sales, and game publishers that use Steam Market pay a transaction fee. For example, Team Fortress 2 €1, the first game supported at the beta for €1 incurred both fees. Full support for other games was expected to be available in early 2013. In April 2013, Valve added subscription-based game support to Steam. The first game to use this service was Darkfall Unholy Wars. Security: the popularity of Steam has led to the service being attacked by hackers. A notable attempt occurred on November 6, 2011, when Valve temporarily closed the community forums, citing potential hacking threats to the service. On November 10, Valve reported that the hack had compromised one of its customer databases, potentially allowing the perpetrators to access customer information including encrypted password and credit card details. At that time, Valve was not aware whether the intruders actually accessed this information or discovered the encryption method, but nevertheless warned users to be alert for fraudulent activity. Valve added Steam Guard functionality to the Steam client in March 2011 to protect against the hijacking of accounts via phishing schemes, one of the largest support issues Valve had at the time. Steam Guard was advertised to take advantage of the identity protection provided by Intel's second-generation Core processors and compatible motherboard hardware, which allows users to lock their account to a specific computer. Once locked, activity by that account on other computers must first be approved by the user on the locked computer. Support APIs for SteamGuard are available to third-party developers through Steamworks. An alternative option available to users who want to use SteamGuard is two-factor, risk-based authentication that uses a one-time verification code sent to a verified email address associated with a Steam account. If SteamGuard is enabled, the verification code is sent each time the account is used from an unknown machine. It is necessary to authenticate every Steamworks game online the first time it is played, whether purchased via Steam itself or installed via a retail disc. After the initial authentication, an offline mode allows games to be run without being connected to the Internet. Revuln, a commercial vulnerability research firm, published a paper in October 2012 that said the Steam browser protocol was posing a security risk by enabling malicious exploits through a simple user click on a maliciously crafted Steam URL in a browser. The report was taken up by various online publications. This was the second serious vulnerability of gaming-related software following a recent problem with Ubisoft's copy protection system Uplay. The German IT platform Heise Online recommended strict separation of gaming and sensitive data, for example using a PC dedicated to gaming, gaming from a second Windows installation, or using a computer account with limited rights dedicated to gaming. User interface. The Steam client includes a digital storefront called the Steam Store through which users can purchase computer games. Once the game is bought, a software license is permanently attached to the user's Steam account, allowing him or her to download the software on any compatible device. Game licenses can be given to other accounts under certain conditions. Content is delivered from an international network of servers using a proprietary file transfer protocol. Steam sells its products in US dollars, euros, pound sterling, Brazilian real, and Russian rubles depending on the user's location. From December 2010, the client supports the money payment system, which is popular in many European, Middle Eastern, and Asian countries. The Steam storefront validates the user's region. The purchase of titles may be restricted to specific regions because of release dates, game classification, or agreements with publishers. The client also offers the Steam Translation Server, which assists Steam users' assistance with the translation of Steam and a selected library of Steam games in 25 languages. Players can add non-Steam games to their libraries, allowing the game to be easily accessed from the Steam client and providing support where possible for Steam overlay features. The Steam interface allows for user-defined shortcuts to be added. In this way, third-party modifications and games not purchased through the Steam Store can use Steam features. Valve sponsors and distributes some modifications free of charge. And modifications that use Steamworks can also use VAC, Friends, the server browser, and any Steam features supported by their parent game. For most games launched from Steam, the client provides an in-game overlay that can be accessed by a keystroke. From the overlay, the user can access his or her Steam community lists and participate in chat, manage selected Steam settings, and access a built-in web browser without having to exit the game. The overlay also allows players to take screenshots of the games in process. It automatically stores these and allows the player to review, delete, or share them during or after his or her game session. Steam's Big Picture mode was announced in 2011. Public betas started in September 2012 and were integrated into the software in December 2012. Big Picture mode is a 10-foot user interface, which optimizes the Steam display to work on high-definition televisions, allowing the user to control Steam with a gamepad or with a keyboard and mouse. Newell has stated that Big Picture mode is a step towards a dedicated Steam entertainment hardware unit. In January 2014, Valve introduced beta support for a virtual reality Big Picture interface with support for Oculus Rift. In-home streaming was introduced in May 2014. This allows users to stream games installed on one computer to another regardless of platform on the same home network. In October 2012, Steam introduced non-gaming applications, which will be sold through the service. Creativity and productivity applications can access the core functions of the Steamworks API, allowing them to use Steam's simplified installation and updating process, and incorporate features including cloud saving and Steam Workshop. Developers of non-gaming software may submit their applications to the Steam Greenlight service to judge interest for later inclusion in the Steam storefront. Valve has a no refunds policy, but in some circumstances it has offered refunds if third-party content fails to work or improperly reports on certain features. For example, the Steam version of From Dust was originally stated to have a single, post-installation online DRM check with its publisher Ubisoft, but the released version of the game required a DRM check with Ubisoft servers each time it was used. At the request of Ubisoft, Valve offered refunds to customers who bought the game while Ubisoft worked to release a patch that would remove the DRM check altogether. On the War's Edge release, players found that the game was still in an alpha build state and lacked many of the features advertised on its Steam store page. Though the developers Hammerpoint Interactive altered the description after launch to reflect the current state of the game software, Valve removed the title from sale and offered refunds to those who had bought it. Valve also removed Earth, Year 2066 from the Early Access program and offered refunds after discovering that the game's developers had reused assets from other games and used developer tools to erase negative complaints about the title. Valve will remove games if they no longer meet Valve's business terms for developers. Grand Theft Auto: Vice City was removed from Steam because of a claim from the Recording Industry Association of America over an expired license for one of the songs on the soundtrack. Near the launch of Electronic Arts' own digital storefront Origin, Valve removed Crysis 2 and Dragon Age 2 from Steam because the terms of service prevented games from having their own in-game storefront for downloadable content. In the case of Crysis 2, a maximum edition that contained all the available downloadable content for the game and removed the in-game storefront was re-added to Steam. Games that are removed can still be downloaded and played by those that have already purchased these titles. The Steam client, as part of a social network service, allows users to identify friends and join groups using the Steam community feature. Users can use text chat and peer-to-peer VoIP with other users, identify which games their friends and other group members are playing, and join and invite friends to Steamworks-based multiplayer games that support this feature. Users can participate in forums hosted by Valve to discuss Steam games. Each user has a unique page that shows his or her groups and friends, game library including earned achievements, game wish lists, and other social features. Users can choose to keep this information private. In January 2010, Valve reported that 10 million of the 25 million active Steam accounts had signed up to Steam Community. In conjunction with the 2012 Steam Summer Sale, User profiles were updated with badges reflecting the user's participation in the Steam community and past events. Steam trading cards were introduced in beta in May 2013 and were fully supported by June 2013. By playing specific games, players would earn virtual trading cards, which they could trade with friends and use towards gaining rewards on the service such as game discounts, downloadable content, or in-game items, and customize their user profile page. The Steam client has become an open-ID provider, allowing third-party websites to use a Steam user's identity without requiring the user to expose his or her Steam credentials. Through Steamworks, Steam provides a means of server browsing for multiplayer games that use the Steam community features, allowing users to create lobbies with friends or members of common groups. Steamworks also provides Valve Anti-Cheat, Valve's proprietary anti-cheat system. Game servers automatically detect and report users who are using cheats in online, multiplayer games. In August 2012, Valve added new features including dedicated hub pages for games that highlight the best user-created content, top forum posts, and screenshots to the community area. In December 2012, a feature called Game Guides, where users can upload text and images detailing games and game strategies in the same manner as game facts, was added. Steam Music, an upcoming feature, will allow users to browse and listen to music they own on their computers while playing games and performing other activities in Steam. Developer features: Valve offers Steamworks, an application programming interface that provides development and publishing tools to take advantage of Steam clients' features, free of charge to game and software developers. Steamworks provides networking and player authentication tools for both server and peer-to-peer multiplayer games, matchmaking services, support for Steam community friends and groups, Steam statistics and achievements, integrated voice communications, and Steam Cloud support, allowing games to integrate with the Steam client. The API also provides anti-cheating devices and digital copy management. Developers of software available on Steam are able to track sales of their titles through the Steam Store. In February 2014, Valve announced that it will allow developers to set up their own sales for their titles independent of any sales that Valve may set for titles. Steam Greenlight, announced in July 2012 and released the following month, is a way for Steam users to help choose which games are added to the service. Developers are able to submit information about their games, as well as early builds or beta versions, for consideration by users. Users can pledge support for these games and Valve will help to make top pledged games available on the Steam service. In response to complaints during its first week that finding games to support was made difficult by a flood of inappropriate or false submissions, Valve required developers to pay $100 to list a game on the service to reduce illegitimate submissions. The fee will be donated to the charity Child's Play. A later modification allowed developers to put conceptual ideas on the Greenlight service to garner interest in potential projects free of charge. Votes from such projects are only visible to the developer. Valve also allowed non-gaming software to be voted onto the service through Greenlight. The first game to be released via Steam Greenlight was McPixel. The initial process offered by Steam Greenlight was panned because while developers favored the concept, the rate of games that are eventually approved by Valve is very small. Valve has acknowledged that this is a problem and believes it can improve upon it. Valve's Tom Bowie said, "We aren't where we want to be yet." In January 2013, Newell stated that Valve recognized that its role in Greenlight has been perceived as a bottleneck, something it plans to eliminate in the future through an open marketplace infrastructure. On the eve of Greenlight's first anniversary, Valve simultaneously approved 100 titles through the Greenlight process to demonstrate this change of direction. Valve stated in January 2014 that it plans to phase out the Greenlight process in favor of providing developers with easier means to put their games onto the Steam service. Steam's Early Access program was launched in March 2013. This program allows developers to release functional but yet incomplete products such as beta versions to the service to allow users to buy the titles and help provide testing and feedback towards the final production. Early access also helps to provide funding to the developers to help complete their titles. Other functions: the Steam Workshop allows players of Valve and Steamworks-enabled games to source user-created content. Users can use in-game or discrete tools to construct and publish new levels, game modifications, or other content for games that support the workshop. Users can then subscribe to such content through the Steam client or the website and automatically download it to their computers and integrate it with the game. The workshop was originally used for distribution of new items for Team Fortress 2. It was redesigned to extend support for any game, including modifications for The Elder Scrolls V: Skyrim, in early 2012. A May 2012 patch for Portal 2, enabled by a new map-making tool through the Steam Workshop, introduced the ability to share user-created levels. Independently developed games, including Dungeons of Duma, are able to provide Steam Workshop support for user-generated content. Dota 2 became Valve's third published title available for the Steam Workshop in June 2012. Its features include customizable accessories, skins, and voice packs. Valve has provided some user-developed workshop content as paid-for features in its games, including Team Fortress 2 and Dota 2. Valve will allow other developers to use these advanced features by the end of 2014. The developer and content generator will share the profits of the sale of these items. Steam for Schools is a function-limited version of the Steam client that is available free of charge to educational institutions for use in classrooms. It is part of Valve's initiative to support gamification of learning for classroom instruction. It was released alongside free versions of Portal 2 and a standalone program called Puzzle Maker that allows teachers and students to create and manipulate levels. It features additional authentication security that allows teachers to share and distribute content through a Steam Workshop-type interface but blocks access from students. Supported platforms: Steam was released in 2003 exclusively for the Microsoft Windows operating system, but has since been expanded to other platforms. OS X. On March 8, 2010, Valve announced that Steam was developing a client for OS X. The announcement was preceded by a change in the Steam Beta client to support the cross-platform WebKit web browser rendering engine instead of the Trident engine of Internet Explorer. Before this announcement, Valve teased the release by emailing several Image-to-Mac community and gaming websites. The images featured characters from Valve games with Apple logos and parodies of vintage Macintosh advertisements. Valve developed a full video homage to Apple's 1984 Macintosh commercial to announce the availability of Half-Life 2 and its episodes on the service. Some concept images for the video had previously been used to tease the Mac Steam client. Steam for OS X was originally planned for release in April 2010. It was launched worldwide on May 12, 2010, following a successful beta period. In addition to the Steam client, several features were made available to developers, allowing them to take advantage of the cross-platform source engine, and platform and network capabilities using Steamworks. Through Steam Play, the OS X client allows players who have purchased compatible products in the Windows version to download the Mac versions at no cost, allowing them to continue playing the game on the other platform. Some third-party titles may require the user to repurchase them to gain access to the cross-platform functionality. The Steam Cloud is cross-platform compatible. Multiplayer games can also be cross-compatible, allowing Windows and Mac players to play with each other. Linux. Valve announced in July 2012 that it was developing a Steam client for Linux and modifying the source engine to work natively on Linux, based on the Ubuntu distribution. This announcement followed months of speculation, primarily from the website Phoronix that had discovered evidence of Linux developing in recent builds of Steam and other Valve software. Newell stated that getting Steam and games to work on Linux is a key strategy for Valve. Newell called the closed nature of Microsoft Windows 8, a catastrophe for everyone in the PC space, and that Linux would maintain the openness of the platform. Valve is extending support to any developers that want to bring their games to Linux, by making it as easy as possible for anybody who's engaged with user putting their games on Steam and getting those running on Linux, according to Newell. The team developing the Linux client had been working for a year before the announcement to validate that such a port would be possible. As of the official announcement, a near-feature-complete Steam client for Linux had been developed and successfully run on Ubuntu. Internal beta testing of the Linux client started in October 2012. External beta testing occurred in early November the same year. Open beta clients for Linux were made available in late December 2012, and the client was officially released in mid-February 2013. Valve's Linux group will focus on improving the Steam client and will assure that its selected first source game, Left 4 Dead 2, will run at an acceptable frame rate and degree of connectivity with the Windows and OS X versions. From there, it will work on porting other games to Ubuntu and expanding to other Linux distributions. In early August 2012, Valve said it had successfully completed the Left 4 Dead 2 port. Following Valve's announcement, Devolver Digital announced that it will port Serious Sam 3, BFE with Steamworks support to the Ubuntu Linux distribution. Linux games will also be eligible for Steam Play availability. The Cave was announced as one of the first titles to take advantage of this. Versions of Steam working under Fedora and Red Hat Enterprise Linux were released by October 2013. On June 5, 2014, the number of Linux-compatible games on Steam reached 500. Consoles. At E3 2010, Newell announced that Steamworks would arrive on the PlayStation 3 with Portal 2. It will provide automatic updates, community support, downloadable content and other unannounced features. Steamworks make its debut on consoles with Portal 2's PlayStation 3 release. Several features are including cross-platform play and instant messaging, Steam Cloud for saved games, and the ability for PS3 owners to download Portal 2 from Steam at no extra cost were offered. Valve's Counter-Strike Global Offensive also supports Steamworks and cross-platform features on the PlayStation 3, including using keyboard and mouse controls as an alternative to the gamepad. Valve said it hopes to expand upon this foundation with more Steam features and functionality in DLC and future content releases. The XBOX 360 does not have support for Steamworks. Newell said that they would have liked to bring the service to the console through the game Counter-Strike Global Offensive, which would have allowed Valve to provide the same feature set that it did for the PlayStation 3, but later said that cross-platform play would not be present in the final version of the game. Valve attributes the inability to use Steamworks on the XBOX 360 to limitations in the XBOX Live regulations of the ability to deliver patches and new content. Valve's Eric Johnson stated that Microsoft requires that new content must be certified and validated before distribution, which would limit the usefulness of Steamworks' delivery approach. Mobile platforms. Valve released an official Steam client for iOS and Android devices in late January 2012, following a short beta period. The application allows players to log into their accounts to browse the storefront, manage their games, and communicate with friends in the Steam community. Newell stated that the application was a strong request from Steam users and sees it as a means to make Steam richer and more accessible for everyone. Steam Machine. Preemptively dubbed the Steam Box by the gaming community, the technology was expected to be a dedicated machine focused upon Steam functionality and maintaining the core functionality of a traditional video game console. During the week beginning on September 23, 2013, Valve unveiled a console operating system called SteamOS, a console input device called the Steam Controller, and the final concept of the Steam Machine hardware, which were tentatively scheduled to be released in 2014. Unlike other consoles, the Steam Machine has no set hardware. Its technology is implemented at the discretion of the manufacturer and is fully customizable in the same lieu as a personal computer. Market share and impact. Valve does not release any sales figures for its Steam service. It only provides the data to companies with games on Steam, which they cannot release without permission because of a non-disclosure agreement with Valve. However, Stardock, the previous owner of competing platform Impulse, estimated that as of 2009, Steam had a 70% share of the digital distribution market for video games. In early 2011, Forbes reported that Steam sales constituted €70% of the $4 billion market for downloaded PC games and that Steam offered game producers gross margins of 70% of purchase price, compared with 30% at retail. Steam's success has led some criticism because of his support of DRM and for being an effective monopoly. Free Software Foundation founder Richard Stallman commented on the issue following the announcement that Steam would come to Linux. He said that while he believes that its release may increase the adoption of free software operating systems, its use also sends a bad message to those who value what he perceives as true software freedom. In November 2011, the developer of The Witcher 2, Assassins of Kings revealed that Steam was responsible for 200,000 of the 250,000 online sales of the game. Waves, an independently developed game, sold 15,238 copies on Steam in just under 6 months. Steam was responsible for 58.6% of gross revenue for Defender's Quest during its first 3 months of release across 6 digital distribution platforms, comprising 4 major digital game distributors and 2 methods of purchasing and downloading the game directly from the developer. See also: List of games using Steam authentication, GOG.com, Gamersgate, Desera, References. External links, official website, Steamworks Steamworks information, the Steam community web access to Steam's social network, Valve developer community Steam Steam category on the official VDC wiki.